This video is all about the left pane of Bundle Builder. I'm just going to start at the very beginning. This is what you'll see if you open a new Bundle Builder file and you're asked to set up the bundle boss. Well, I'm going to sidestep that right now because later on I'm going to tell you all about the bundle boss and how that works. So I'm going to select set up later. Something else to point out is that if you go to the help folder, the help menu at the top of the screen there, and you go Bundle Builder Help, you do get an awful lot of guidance there on how to use Bundle Builder. It's not very long, but it's certainly worth reading. So do read through that, and it'll help you greatly in terms of working out exactly how you can best use Bundle Builder. So as I said, this is all about the left pane, and the left pane is essentially, for the most part, a list of all of the documents that are going to be in the eventual bundle. And there's a few ways you can get documents into there. I'm going to start with the first way, which is to hit that plus button, and then you can go through the Finder type window to find the files you're looking for. I'm going to select this top one now, just by way of example of adding a file just by using the plus button, and I'm going to open that file. Now that has brought the file in here. It's called Beta Tester, and in actual fact it's only really there so that I've got an excuse to point out to you that if you want to be a beta tester for Bundle Builder, send me an email and ask to join. There's my email address, and you can then, if you become a beta tester, actually work with Bundle Builder as a beta tester in the first instance, or even after you've bought unlimited Bundle Builder, you could then have access to new features as and when they become available. Now, the next easy way, or the probably easier way to bring a file in or files in, is to drag and drop them. So just by way of example, I'm going to drag and drop that one file, the second file in that list of files, and so long as I get that blue line that's appeared, you see the blue line that appears as I come close, it's going to add in that file as well. So now we've got two files in the bundle, in the list that forms the bundle, and if I come back to here, I'm going to start from the third file, and I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, press Shift and select the bottom one, and then I've got all of those files, and I can drag those files up, and I've got the blue line, and the number 15 is telling me I'm going to drag in 15 files. So now I drop that, and all of the files are in there. So I've got 17 files altogether, and you'll notice that the file names that I've given those files, a lot of them start with 0 and then a number. And so the order that they fill themselves in to this list is in the order of those numbers. Now essentially what it will do by default is load all of the files in alphanumerically, or in other words in alphabetical order or in number order. And so because I knew the order that I wanted the files in, I actually just numbered those files instead of giving them just the name. You might notice I've got two 4s there, two 04s. But essentially my point is that if you want to bring your files in already in an order that you want them to be, then that is a good way of doing it. Another good way of doing it, with these two down the bottom we can see, and I've made up dates here, but the date I've made up for this file is the ET1, which is this claim form. The number, I'm effectively saying that's the 1st of January 2026. And so if I start with the year, then the month, and then the date, and then the next file is the year, the month, the date, and for that one I've selected Valentine's Day. But the effect of that is that they will fall into date order. So if you had 50 files, all of which followed that dating convention, and they were all different dates obviously, then they would come into this index, as it were, as in date order. So that part of the job would already be done for you before you bring the files into Bundle Builder. Now this one, I've only really used this one because it's a big file and I just wanted a big file by way of example. And you'll notice, like here, I've got thumbnails of all the pages in that file. But if I go to GDPR, the Data Protection Act 2018, it says it's got 345 pages, thumbnails hidden for large documents. Essentially, I made the decision to reduce the number of pages that you can have in a single PDF and still get all of the thumbnails, just really because to have the thumbnails uses quite a bit of memory, and if you've got an awful lot of pages, it will use an awful lot of memory. And so that's why that's the situation. Now, in actual fact, although I said these were in the order that I wanted them to be, they're not in the order that I want them to be. But what I can do is put them in the order that I want them to be. And so, for example, I'm going to want the ET1 followed by the ET3. The ET3 is the response form, the ET1 is the claim form. I can drag those up to the top, put them in there, and they're now at the top of the file. Now, what I actually want to do anyway is introduce a section. You make use of sections. So I want this first section to be the tribunal documents. And so I can add a section above that file that's currently selected. And I'm going to call it tribunal documents. So here I've got a section that's just called documents, but these two that I want to be part of tribunal documents, I can just drag now into that top section. Now, going back down to the bottom, the third file I want is that one, which is the orders for directions that were given by the tribunal. I've got to get it to pick up so that it will drop in there. And then that GDPR file with the lots of pages, that wants to go in there. And so that's my first section sorted. Now, the beta tester file, as I said earlier, I only brought that in so that I remembered to talk about it and so that you could see my email address if you wanted to become a beta tester. But we don't actually need it in this bundle. So if I right click on there, I can just select remove. And then that's gone out of the system. Now here, by way of example, is a file name where somebody's used the underscores between the different words to separate the words. There was a time when that was necessary, a very long time ago in computers. You no longer need those separating underscores. But what I really want to do is end up with the documents generally in date order, and that will actually come up in a later video how we go about doing that. But it is the second section that I want, but I also want a section for pay slips. You'll see I've got a pay slip there, and I've got a pay slip there and a pay slip there. So if I go down to the bottom and right click on that file, I can insert a section below there. And now it just called it new section. So if I select new section, I can now change that and just make it pay slips. So we've now got a section for pay slips, and we've got March, February and January. So those two are in the right order. Let's just select January, February and put them in there. And then get the March one and put that below the February one. So January, February, March. Now, all of these other files are all part of what you might call the chronology. So we're going to end up eventually having those all in date order, and we're going to do a few other things with the actual name of the document, etc., in later videos. Now, just to point out a few other things we could do, down here is a button that if I click it, it will add a new section at the bottom. I'm not going to actually add that because I don't need it. If I want to sort all of the documents in the list by the name of the file or the date of the file in forward or reverse order, then I can use this icon down here to get this list and choose that whichever sorting. But if I select a range of files, so say all of the files within one section or even a smaller number of files within a single section, then when I go down to here to sort, it's going to sort the selection by the name, the date, or file name. Now, at the moment, it's already sorted A to Z, so just to demonstrate, I'll sort them Z to A. So now we've got the one starting with 11 at the top and the one starting with 01 at the bottom. So just to put that right again, I can go back down here and I can now sort A to Z, and we're actually back where we started. But what I've highlighted is the use of this icon here in terms of sorting. If there's one or none selected, then it'll sort everything in the list. But if there's more than one selected, however many, then it's going to sort the selected items only. So we also have, for each section, we've got one of these icons, and you can add a section above, move the section up or move the section down, and you could sort the sections by whichever method you want to sort them. Now, you can also apply a colour to a section, and so if I select red, I've then got a red dot next to the document section. And of course, with colour, you've got a range of colours you can use. So you might have different types of sections and want to give them a colour so that they're all of the same colour, just as a reminder about that section. You can delete the section as well from that menu. Now, what have we got left in the left-hand pane? We've done add a document. We've right-clicked and removed a document, but you can do minus and that will remove the selected document as well. Up here, we can press this button or tap this button and the whole list will disappear altogether. In case, if ever you want the space for the other panes, but of course you can just click it and get it back, and then you can drag it out to a sort of maximum width, and according to what amount of width you want to make use of, you can slide that about as well. Now, just a couple of other things to mention before I'm done. If you have a file, well, let me show you here. On this file, I can select the text. That also means that that text is searchable. And if all of the documents that you've got in here are selectable and searchable, then you can search for a word. So if you use the command button and F, you get this come up. Let's take the word Jubilee and we'll search for the word Jubilee, and it appears 10 times. So it's 47 Jubilee there, and you can scroll through the different occurrences of the word Jubilee. So that makes the whole thing searchable, so long as all of the text has been recognised into its own PDF, which means that makes it available to be searched. Now, if you get a document that hasn't got that property, and you can test that by just seeing if you can highlight. Then if you right click on the given file, you can do apply OCR. OCR stands for optical character recognition. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this if it's already been done, mainly because if it's come from Microsoft Word or Apple's Pages or something like that, it's probably going to have literally a better OCR than the one that you're going to apply here. But if it's, say, a scanned document that has never been OCR'd, then you can OCR it within here. And of course, above that, you can also add a bookmark. So if I add a bookmark there, I now have a bookmark on that document, and this little icon here denotes that it has a bookmark. Let's do another one just while we're here. So we will add a bookmark there. So we've got just document 9 and document 7 and document 10 have both got bookmarks, or rather document 9 and document 12. It's the numbers there are 7 and 10. So I think that about covers it for the left-hand panel. I'm going to move to the right-hand panel next, but I'm probably only going to deal with the first of these tabs at the top, which is the Properties tab, because that'll take a bit of getting through before moving on to the other tabs that are in the right-hand column.